Before we kick things off, I'm going to start by answering the 6 questions that I get the most often when it comes to surface design and seamless patterns. Question 1. What is a repeat pattern for? Seamless patterns are the most versatile surface design pattern type out there. What makes them so magical is the blocks will line up perfectly, which means the pattern can be scaled up infinitely. This is the key to creating designs that work well on wallpaper, fabrics, bedding, you name it. So if you're interested in surface design, seamless patterns are a must. Bonus, this opens up the door for you to start uploading your designs to print-on-demand websites like Spoonflower, where you can start earning an income with your artwork. Question 2, raster versus vector. And real quick, if you're wondering what the difference is between raster images and vector images, I've got you covered. Raster means that the artwork is comprised of pixels. So when I scan my painting into the computer and zoom way in, you'll see that this artwork is made up of teeny tiny pixels. So if you expand this design and blow it up to huge proportions, you'll see the pixels, they get all fuzzy. This is why I scan my artwork in at massively large dimensions. By capturing my original paintings with extremely high quality with my scanner, I can enlarge this artwork to be huge without it getting blurry. But there is a limit, and once I hit that limit, it'll get fuzzy. With vector artwork, this isn't a concern. No matter how large you scale up your vector artwork, it will always look the exact same. This is because vector artwork is made up of lines, points, curves, and shapes that are all based on mathematical formulas. When you draw shapes in Adobe Illustrator, these illustrations are vector-based. Vector artwork is incredibly versatile because there's no limits on how large or how small you scale your illustrations. I actually love vector-style art, and I create a lot of vector illustrations in my portfolio. But I also love the feeling of a hand-painted illustration. All right, I want to clear up a myth that I have heard over and over again. Everyone thinks that professional patterns must be done in Adobe Illustrator and they must be vector. Guess what? 99% of my patterns aren't vectorized. Many of them are hand-painted elements that I did in watercolor or acrylic, which I don't vectorize because I love the imperfections of hand-created artwork, especially visible brushstrokes, dynamic color blending and watercolor blooms, even wobbly edges that make hand-created artwork so charming. Today's class focuses on hand-drawn, rasterized elements. So you can follow along with watercolor like I'll be demonstrating, or you can import artwork that you've drawn in Procreate, or just use a marker and doodle some shapes. All of these methods will work for today's class. Question 3. Can I sell the same pattern through different companies? Yep, and I do this all the time. I have the same artwork available through Spoonflower, Society6, Redbubble, even the in-store licensing partners I have, like Urban Outfitters and ModCloth. We'll dive more into this later on in this class when I walk you through a typical upload process. But know this for now. As long as the contract includes that this is a non-exclusive licensing agreement, you're good to go. And just a heads up, some companies will send you a legal document to review, which is sometimes called an artist agreement. Other companies, especially print-on-demand sites like Society6, have this in their terms of service, also called terms and conditions on other platforms. So wherever the legal language is stored, you want to find it, read it, and make sure it says non-exclusive for the way that you license your designs. Question 4. What's better, Photoshop or Procreate? I use both of these programs and I love them both for different reasons. You can make seamless patterns in both Photoshop and Procreate, and I even have another Skillshare class that teaches you exactly how to do so in Procreate, but ultimately you have more flexibility in Photoshop. In Photoshop, there's less restrictions on the dimension of your canvas or how many layers you use. Procreate restricts both, which means it's kind of tricky to work in large canvas sizes with a lot of layers. And as you're about to find out in this class, I love giant canvases. And speaking of layer restrictions, I am really glad that Photoshop isn't strict about this, because when we get into exploring various color palettes, we are going to have a lot of layers. I like how in Photoshop, we can keep all of our color explorations in one canvas. It makes it easier and more organized. Also, it's really easy to test out your pattern in Photoshop. It's all automated for us, so we don't have to stack our blocks manually like we do in Procreate. In Photoshop, it's also super easy to adjust the size of your pattern with just one click using our Pattern Fill tool. All this being said, Procreate is still a fabulous option, especially if you don't have Photoshop. Procreate is also a good option if you want to keep your entire process within the same program, from sketch to final to pattern. You can do all of this within Procreate. I use Procreate to draw new illustrations from scratch. I don't do this in Photoshop because it's hard for me to draw naturally with a mouse. But with Procreate, I can hold my stylus like a pencil and create beautiful hand-drawn illustrations. So for me, that's how I differentiate the two. Procreate is a great tool for drawing original artwork. Photoshop is a great tool for polishing up your artwork and turning it into patterns. Question 5. How did you get your first licensing deal? My first big break was actually Urban Outfitters. I know, I started with a bang. I'd been selling my designs through Society6 for a few years, and at that point, all of my income was coming through print on demand. No licensing deals yet. I was actually in line about to go through security at LAX, and my phone buzzed. It was an email from a buyer at Urban Outfitters, and they were interested in licensing my Good Vibes design. I completely freaked out, in a good way, because this was my first big break. They found my design on Society6, and I had my Instagram account linked in my bio. So the buyer stalked my Instagram, found Good Vibes, and then reached out to me directly. This is one of those reasons why having a presence on print-on-demand sites is so strategic. It's not always about sales. Sometimes it's about getting exposure and having a place where people can find you, reach out, and maybe strike up a new deal. I'm going to dive deeper into this one later on when we get to the upload section of this class. And finally, question 6. How do you get your artwork noticed? Every artist has their own story for their first big break, and I just shared mine. But here's my best advice for anyone who wants to get noticed in the surface design industry today. It's important to have a strong, commercial-friendly body of work. What I mean by that is 2 things. 1, you're actively adding new designs to your portfolio, even if that portfolio is simply your Instagram page. The first part is easy. Be an artist and make new designs. We love that part, right? The second part comes with a bit more strategy. You want to create designs that sell well. Don't we all? What's worked best for me personally is to keep an eye on trends and create new artwork that keys in on what's popular or soon to be so. I spend a lot of time browsing websites that resonate with my own audience to see what they're selling. If Anthropologie has a ton of animal print this season, chances are animal print is on trend. And if Anthropologie's customers are buying it, chances are mine are as well. We have a very similar audience. I always infuse my own unique artistic voice into my designs, so I'm not copying trends, I'm simply getting inspiration for motifs. And lastly, if you want to succeed as a surface designer, my #1 best piece of advice is to get started before you're ready. I've heard from so many students that they're waiting until they have, X number of pieces in their portfolio before they start their spoonflower shop. Or they don't want to share their artwork on social media yet because it's not ready. Reality check. We all start with 0 followers and 0 sales, and we build up from there. If I waited until I felt ready, I would still be waiting. So my advice is to put yourself out there, as hard as that can be, because as soon as you do so, you'll have a foundation that you can start building upon. This is how we grow as artists. We create, learn from our mistakes, improve, and then create even more. It's a process that never stops, so as soon as you put yourself out there and get started, the sooner you'll find your own success. All right, I wanted to squeeze a little pep talk in there. Now that that's covered, let's get started by going over the supplies for today's class.